Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Amritpal Singh. Coming up over the next 1 hour, Bangladesh protests, a death toll rises to 7. Violent clashes over quota in government jobs continue even after a nationwide shutdown. Members of the European Parliament to decide today on the second term for the Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen. UK Parliament to debate the government's plans for the country to discuss the content of the King's speech. A public inquiry examining Britain's response to COVID-19 outbreak to issue its first report today. Trump's vice presidential pick, J.D. Vance, vows to fight for forgotten Americans, fires salvos at Democrats in his first speech at the National Convention. J.D. Vance, the manilial face of the MAGA movement, has vowed to return Donald Trump to the White House in his first speech since being tapped as the former president's 2024 running mate. In his primetime address received by a rapturous crowd of Trump's supporters, the ex-Marine and self-proclaimed hillbilly Vance promoted an America First agenda, rallied against illegal immigration and made a major pitch to blue-collar voters. DD India's Benji Haya reports.
This was a big chance for J.D. Vance to introduce himself to the American public and define who he is to the world. And he took that chance. Describing himself as a working-class boy, he pledged to commit to the working man, to stand up for American citizens, touting an isolationist, patriotic set of policies which he believes will help left-behind voters achieve the American dream and ultimately allow him to serve alongside Trump in the building behind me.
So tonight, Mr. Chairman, I stand here humbled and I'm overwhelmed with gratitude to say I officially accept your nomination to be Vice President of the United States of America. President Trump's vision is so simple and yet so powerful. We're done, ladies and gentlemen, catering to Wall Street. We'll commit to the working man.
He was introduced by his wife, Usha Vance, the daughter of Indian immigrants. She acknowledged their different backgrounds.
And his goals in this new role are the same that he has pursued for our family: to keep people safe, to create opportunities, to build a better life, and to solve problems with an open mind.
In fact, this was quite the family affair on the penultimate day of the convention. Donald Trump's son, Donald Trump Jr., spoke before J.D. Vance and was joined by his daughter Kai. On Thursday, Donald Trump Sr., that is, will take to the stage himself, his first public comments since his attempted assassination. J.D. Vance did make reference to that attempted assassination, but he did not apologise for pinning the shooting on Joe Biden and his campaign's rhetoric. This has been a fractious, volatile campaign. Vance tonight showed he's willing to bring the fight, but also paint himself as someone who can empathise with the country at large. In Washington, Benji Haya reporting for DD India.
And Donald Trump Jr., Donald Trump's son, began his National Convention speech talking about the assassination attempt on his father over the weekend. He said Donald Trump showed in that moment that the next American president has the heart of a lion and a spirit that can never be broken. He also spoke about the man who died at the rally, Corey Comprador. A vigil is being held tonight for a Comprador at a speedway in Pennsylvania.
This November, we have a choice. It's a choice between one team that wants to build this country up and another that wants to tear this country down. It's a choice between people who are proud of America and people who are ashamed of America. And ultimately, it's a choice between America last and America first.
Earlier, U.S. Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump made a triumphant entrance at the convention. Trump arrived in Milwaukee moments before Vance delivered his speech. Trump is set to formally accept the party's nomination in a primetime speech on Friday. He will face Democratic President Joe Biden in November 5th election. And U.S. President Joe Biden returned to U.S. state Delaware after testing positive for COVID-19 and cancelling a campaign event in Las Vegas on Wednesday. The 81-year-old is self-isolating after experiencing mild symptoms. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said that Biden would not be able to speak at the scheduled event in Las Vegas due to the diagnosis. The president's diagnosis comes amid intense scrutiny of his health and stamina after his fellow Democrats want him to drop out of the re-election campaign. U.S. Secret Service Director Kimberly Chite has agreed to testify before the House of Representatives Oversight Committee on July 22nd for a hearing related to the shooting of former President Donald Trump at a rally. Security at the Republican presidential candidate's rally has been under scrutiny, and a number of lawmakers have raised questions about it. The FBI has said that it's probing the shooting as an assassination attempt. Meanwhile, calls for Chite's resignation have intensified, with the House Speaker Mike Johnson and other Republicans adding their names to the list. Johnson said on Wednesday he will create a special bipartisan task force to investigate the shooting. The agency is also facing an inquiry by the Department of Homeland Security's Inspector General. President Biden said on Sunday that he was ordering an independent review of how security was handled at the rally. European Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen will face the crucial vote on Thursday after spending weeks to convince lawmakers to back her for the second term. European leaders officially nominated von der Leyen at a summit in Brussels at the end of June. The road looks rocky ahead, with many saying they still have not decided whether to support her. One among them is Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. Von der Leyen angered her when she struck a backroom deal with fellow Conservatives, Liberals, Greens and Socialists. The tricky part is that Meloni heads the hard-right European Conservatives and Reformist group of the MEPs, whose 78 votes could prove critical for von der Leyen's fate. At least 361 members of the European Parliament out of the 720 will have to vote in her favor to secure her second term as Commission President. And ahead of the crucial vote, von der Leyen has pledged to revamp border management and strengthen Frontex and Europol, and to put forward a new approach for return of migrants if she wins a second 5-year term as head of the European Commission. She's also pledged to launch European Union defense projects, including a European air shield, and vowed not to roll back green policies. In a 31-page vision document, she proposed to triple the number of European border and coast guards to 30,000. And she will appoint dedicated commissioners for EU enlargement and for relations with the Mediterranean. And DD India's Alex Kadir joins us from Brussels. Alex, Ursula von der Leyen has pledged to be a strong leader for Europe in the time of crisis and polarization, as she made her final leadership pitch today to the European lawmakers ahead of the vote. Give us a sense of the contest that she faces.
Well, certainly it's tighter than a lot of people expected. Ursula von der Leyen has not just made friends in the European Parliament in this last 5 years, but we've just heard from her. She's just addressed the 720 MEPs of the European Parliament in Strasbourg in a speech that was described by one member of the European Parliament as a European Christmas tree. There were presents for all parties, and that was the balancing act that she had to achieve in this speech. She had to keep as many parties on board without alienating others and drawing very clear lines. She promised not to roll back on green policies, but she promised to be tougher on migration. That keeps the Greens happy. That keeps the right-wing parties happy as well. So clearly this was a tightrope act for Ursula von der Leyen. The smart money, at least in Brussels, would be that she is almost certainly going to be approved by the Parliament. But again, this is a secret ballot. We do not know how the MEPs vote, and so they are free to oppose her, even if they are part of her governing coalition, as the Socialists or the Greens. So we'll have to wait and see the next couple of hours to see if Ursula von der Leyen gets confirmed by the European Parliament. If she doesn't, that would throw the European Commission certainly into some level of chaos. We would have to wait months for a new Commission president to be appointed by the Parliament. And that is one of the main arguments by Ursula von der Leyen. She says, look at what's happening in the United States. Look at what is happening to the global economy, to war in the Middle East. Europe needs stability. Europe needs continuity. That's why she's asking for the Parliament's trust. It'll take a couple hours before we know exactly what the decision is.
Okay. And Alex, how should we read her new approach to the return of migrants? Is that an olive branch to the Conservatives?
Yes, you're absolutely right. That is exactly what it is, looking at keeping those parties happy. There were three main threads. Ursula von der Leyen has said that from the beginning of her campaign. You have to be pro-Europe, you have to be pro-Ukraine, and you have to be pro-rule of law. That last one is crucial, pro-rule of law, including border laws, including migration laws, including immigration controls on the way into the European Union, strengthening Frontex, the border agency, strengthening Europol, the European police force, making it very clear to far-right parties, particularly to Giorgia Meloni's brothers of Italy, whose support she does need in this vote, that Ursula von der Leyen will be tougher on migration. Now, that seems fairly standard considering the political context, but if you think back to 2019, Ursula von der Leyen's speech when she took the helm of the European Commission back then was all about climate change, was all about green policies, about fighting climate change, about being sustainable. That is very different to the speech we heard today. Tough on migration to keep far-right and right-wing parties happy. But you remember of those three, there was also pro-Ukraine. She harshly criticized Viktor Orban, so she is not trying to work with all parts of the far right. She said his so-called peace mission to Moscow was nothing more than an appeasement mission and had nothing to do with peace. So she will work with far right parties if they are pro-Ukraine, pro-Europe, pro-rule of law, but clearly Viktor Orban, not one of those people.
All right. Alex Carrier, thank you very much for joining us from Brussels. And still to come on DD India News Hour, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer hosts European leaders from over 40 countries. Startups in Ukraine developing AI systems to help fly a vast fleet of drones. And a huge fire erupts in the Sichuan province of China, killing at least 16 people.
As the world gears up for the biggest sporting extravaganza, Olympics 2024, we at DD India are all set to bring you reports, reactions and all the latest action from Ground Zero. Watch DD India's super exclusive show, Cheer for Bharat. Only on DD India from July the 22nd at 6:30 p.m. IST, 1 p.m. GMT. Get ready to cheer for Indian athletes at the Paris Olympics 2024.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Amritpal Singh. UK lawmakers will debate the UK government's plans for the country on Thursday. It will be the first time most of the policies announced during the King's speech and Keir Starmer's address to Parliament will have a chance to be scrutinised by the MPs, especially the opposition MPs. DD India's Stuart Smith reports from Westminster in London.
The King and Prime Minister have outlined the measures the government will take in this new session of Parliament. Now, lawmakers will spend their first full day debating what has been promised. The vast majority of what's been announced was based on the Labour Party's election manifesto, but the detail of the bills being brought to Parliament provides the first chance to see what exactly is being proposed. While former Prime Minister, now opposition leader Rishi Sunak was already taking Labour to task over some of its bills on Wednesday, he says the Conservative Party will not oppose the government for its own sake. Changes to football governance and measures to reduce smoking were bills brought over from the Conservative government. Other bills proved more controversial. While Labour says it will spend 2.5% of its GDP on defence, the Tories said they should put a timeline on when it will increase that spending by. The leader of the Liberal Democrats wanted Labour to go further than announced when it comes to access to GPs and dentists. And the Scottish National Party said it was disappointed there were no changes to the child benefit cap, a rule that means only the first two children in the poorest families are entitled to extra funds from the government. Stuart Smith in London, reporting for DD India.
And British Prime Minister Keir Starmer is convening the European political community comprising over 40 nations at the Buckingham Palace to enhance cooperation on border security. On Thursday, Starmer will leverage his position as host of the European Forum to advocate for a renewed post-Brexit relationship between Britain and the European Union to reiterate support for Ukraine. And DD India's Ollie Barrett joins us live from London on more. Ollie, how does the new Prime Minister leverage his position for a renewed post-Brexit relationship between the United Kingdom and EU at this forum?
Well, Amritpal, it's going to be interesting because this is actually a summit that was organised by the previous Conservative government. So in many ways, an opportune coincidence for Keir Starmer that at a time when his new government takes over, saying that it wants a reset in its relationship with the European continent and with the European Union, it is hosting this European Political Community Summit at Blenheim Palace. But at the same time, the European political community is not really an organisation that takes action normally together. It's more of a talking forum discussing areas of potential cooperation. It's an opportunity for bilateral meetings, multilateral meetings on the side of the summit as well. And London will know that any reset in its relationship with the European Union would actually come from direct talks with the EU. The UK side is also stressing heading into this meeting at Blenheim Palace that it is some way off any kind of renegotiation of its post-Brexit trade deal with Brussels, and so it doesn't want to make too many statements or comments at this EPC summit, which could potentially annoy the European Union in sounding presumptuous about whether there might be some kind of decision-making changes that can happen to the Brexit relationship between the UK and the European Union. So the UK having to tread a difficult path at the EPC, but overall in tone, Keir Starmer and the UK government hopes that, as I say, it's an opportunity just to show that they can pursue slightly different relations with European capitals than perhaps were seen in the post-Brexit years under the Conservatives.
All right. And Ollie, how could we expect the deliberations on Ukraine play out or progress in this meeting?
Well, one of the key areas of concern for European leaders at the moment is the United States. Recent events in the US have led European leaders to feel more and more like they may well be dealing with a Donald Trump White House after the next US election, and that comes with potential difficulties around ongoing US support for Ukraine, or perhaps lessening US support for Ukraine if Donald Trump were to get back into office after the November election in the United States. And so European leaders are trying, when it comes to Ukraine, to show that they can cooperate as much as possible to make sure that European support for the Ukrainians in their conflict with Russia is going to be committed to, followed through upon, and is going to continue whatever happens in the United States. That said, there are some European leaders at the EPC summit who themselves are considering perhaps scaling back some of their support for the Ukrainians. So from a Ukrainian perspective, Volodymyr Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, will certainly hope that a forum like this can see further commitments of support and cooperation in its struggle against that Russian so-called special military operation. And a lot of these sideline talks between countries, multilateral, bilateral discussions that are going on will have that focus on Ukraine.
Ori Bharati, many thanks for joining us from London on that update on the European Political Community meeting that's happening in London. Thank you. A public inquiry examining Britain's response to COVID-19 outbreak will issue its first report on Thursday. The report will focus on how well prepared the nation was for handling the pandemic. Former Prime Minister Boris Johnson ordered the inquiry in May 2021 and it was formally launched the following year. The inquiry was told in early evidence that the government was underprepared and had failed to anticipate measures needed to protect the vulnerable. Britain had recorded one of the world's highest number of fatalities from COVID, with more than 230,000 deaths reported by December 2023. And British Prime Minister Keir Starmer met with his Irish counterpart Simon Harris at the British government's Chequers country residence on Wednesday. The meeting comes ahead of Thursday's European Political Community meeting at the Blenheim Palace in Oxford, where the European leaders will gather and discuss shared challenges such as Ukraine and migration. Earlier on Wednesday, Britain's new government said it would scrap an amnesty scheme for ex-soldiers and militants involved in decades of violence in Northern Ireland. Harris, who took office in April, has called for a great reset of ties with Britain, which could have which have been fractious in recent years. Ukraine's Air Force on Thursday said it shot down all 16 Shahed drones and 2 out of 3 missiles fired into its territory by Russia overnight. The targets were shot down over 5 different regions across the country. Meanwhile, Russia's southern Belgorod region has suspended the work of all children's nurseries located within a 20-kilometer radius of the border with Ukraine due to dangers posed by the shelling. The official said that the measure, reported on Thursday by Russian media, took effect on Wednesday and will last all week. It was not clear if the closures will be extended. Russian media said that the closures will affect about 50,000 people in the region. As the use of artificial intelligence or AI is being widely used across all tech-related platforms, including in warfare in Ukraine, a handful of startups are developing AI systems to help fly a vast fleet of drones, taking warfare to uncharted territory as combatants race to gain a technological edge in the battle. Ukraine hopes a rollout of the AI-enabled drones across the front line will help it overcome increasing signal jamming by the Russians, as well as enable unmanned aerial vehicles to work in larger groups. AI drone development in Ukraine is broadly split between the visual systems helping identify targets and fly drones into them, terrain mapping for navigation, and more complex programs enabling the UAVs to operate in interconnected swims. In a major blow that might affect the flow of humanitarian aid delivery into Gaza, the U.S. military has announced termination of its floating piers near the Gaza coast. In a news briefing on Wednesday, the U.S. Navy's Vice Admiral Brad Cooper, who is also the Deputy Commander of the U.S. Central Command, said that the maritime surge mission involving the pier was complete, and there was no further need to use the pyre. The pyre was operational for about 20 days and nearly 20 million pounds of aid was delivered to Gaza through this pyre. Cooper said that efforts to distribute aid to Gaza arriving by sea would now shift to the established port of Ashdod in Israel. Meanwhile, the families of the Israeli hostages held in Gaza increased pressure on Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to reach an agreement with Hamas to bring their relative home before his scheduled speech at the U.S. Congress on the 24th of July. The protests came out on the streets in various locations across Israel. After increasingly positive signs that a deal based on the one announced by U.S. President Joe Biden may be close, doubts have grown since Israeli forces targeted Hamas military leader Mohammed Deif in a strike on Saturday. Earlier this week, families of female soldiers who were captured by Hamas fighters on October 7 also demanded a commission of inquiry into the events. India has reiterated its call for an immediate and complete ceasefire in the Gaza Strip and called for the release of hostages without any conditions. Delivering his remarks at the UN Security Council's open debate on West Asia on Wednesday, India's Deputy Representative to the UN, R. Ravindra, has called for immediate ceasefire in Gaza and urged for unconditional release of hostages. He also appreciated the role of countries like Qatar and Egypt for their continued engagement with the leadership of Israel and Palestine. The Italian
was among the countries which strongly and unequivocally condemned the terror attacks on Israel on 7 October 2023. We have also condemned the loss of civilian lives in the ongoing Israel-Hamas conflict. We have called for restraint, de-escalation, and emphasized peaceful resolution of the conflict through dialogue and diplomacy. We reiterate the call for an immediate, full, and complete ceasefire, safe, timely, and sustained humanitarian assistance, and unrestricted access to relief and essential humanitarian services in the Gaza Strip. In addition, we also call for immediate and unconditional release of all hostages.
The Italian Air Force and Navy made their debut at the Australian pitch black exercises in Darwin on Thursday, bringing with them an aircraft carrier, a first for the drills since they began in 1983. Italy is the equal largest contributor of fighter jets to the 20-nation war games with host Australia. The United States, Britain, Japan, the Philippines and PNG are also taking part. 23 Italian jets are flying over 40,000 square nautical kilometers of largely unpopulated land in northern Australia. Italian Navy said the 1,200-person strong carrier strike group will later travel to the U.S. Pacific territory of Guam and Japan before transiting the South China Sea to the Philippines for the first time. Pitch Black 2024 is the largest exercise in its 43-year history, with 20 countries bringing 140 aircraft and 4,500 personnel across various bases in northern Australia. Let's now take a look at other stories making news around the world. A fire broke out in a building in the Zhejiang city of Sichuan province of China on Wednesday. It killed about 16 people. The state news agency Xinhua confirmed the news on Thursday. An investigation to determine the main cause of fire is underway. Bolivia's state oil firm YPFB recently discovered of a 1.7 trillion cubic foot natural gas reserve named Mayaya Centro X1 field. The reserve has proved to be a boon for the energy-crunch South American nation with depleting currency reserves. Russia is holding closure trial to the American journalist Ivan Gershokovich on Thursday. The Wall Street Journal reporter was arrested last year on charges of espionage and who has repeatedly denied any wrongdoings. Fossil bones of a large plant-eating mammal in Argentina hint at the human presence in the southern South America some 21,000 years ago. The mammal, named Neosclerocalpitus, belonged to the group called Glypopodonts that inhabited the place before extinction. Still to come on DD India News Hour. Indian Navy rescues 9 personnel, including 8 Indians, from a capsized oil tanker off Oman's coast. Gunfight with terrorists reported at the Kala Bhatta search in Jammu and Kashmir. Search operations underway. Hearing is underway in Supreme Court in the NEET paper leak case. CBI detains 4 medical students from AIIMS, Patna.
While there's still enough food for everyone on the planet, food shortages are a real problem. Let's take a look at the factors causing this and what can be done to save our food.
What we host now, it's called Farm School. One of the goals is to teach them agriculture so that 50 years from now, when there's so much change in climate, they don't have to deal with learning 2 new skills.
We empower women who are really poor and who don't have too much economic empowerment to eat better.
We adopt this strategy in our product. The volatile compounds induce the defence mechanism and help to prolong shelf life by 2 more days, so it's purely natural.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Amrit Pal Singh. Bangladesh protests, death toll rises to 7. Violent clashes over quota and government jobs continues even after a nationwide shutdown. Members of the European Parliament to decide today on the second term for the Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen. Trump's Vice President presidential pick, J.D. Vance, vows to fight for forgotten Americans, fires salvos at Democrats in his first speech at the convention. Indian Navy's mission deployed the warship INS Teig, rendering the SAR assistance for the capsized oil tanker MV Prestige Falcon, has rescued 9 personnel, including 8 Indians. 1 is Sri Lankan. The MV had capsized about 25 nautical miles southeast of Ras Madraka in Oman on Monday, and the SAR efforts in coordination with Oman authorities are in progress since the very next day. The oil tanker is reported to have a total of 16 crew members, including 13 Indians and 3 Sri Lankans on board. The search and rescue by the Indian and Omani assets is being undertaken in challenging weather conditions as the area is experiencing rough sea and strong winds. Indian Navy's long-range maritime reconnaissance aircraft P-8I is also assisting in search for the survivors. Indian Union Minister of State for Environment, Forest and Climate Change and External Affairs, Kirti Vardhan Singh, on Thursday expressed condolences to the family members of those bereaved of the bereaved family members in Oman. On taking to platform X, Singh shared that he has spoken to India's ambassador in Oman to get an update on the capsized vessel. 8 Indians have so far been rescued, while 1 body has been retrieved, he said. He said that the situation is being closely monitored. And 1 more person died and many more were injured as violent clashes continued in Bangladesh even after a nationwide shutdown. Protesters and the police clashed in Dhaka on Thursday. The coordination committee of the quota reform movement called for a peaceful, complete shutdown across the country to push home their demands to reform the quota system and curb attacks on student protesters. The government has deployed the border guard to Bangladesh in addition to various police agencies across the country. Meanwhile, Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina had announced a judicial inquiry into the deaths of 6 people who lost their lives on Tuesday during protests. And Naval Singh Parmar joins us now. Our correspondent joins us from Dhaka. Naval Singh, give us a sense of how the protests are proceeding. What is the government planning to do? How grim is the situation?
Yes, the situation in Dhaka and other part of Bangladesh is very tense, and the roads and streets of Dhaka are deserted. There are only 2 categories of people. One is protester and other is security agency. Otherwise, there are no people's movement on the streets and roads of the Dhaka. Same situation is there in other city of Bangladesh like Chittagong, Rajshahi, Rangpur and Borishal. Intercity transport service, rail and road service are disrupted. Meanwhile, Bangladesh Law Minister Anisul Haq and another minister, Education Minister, just 10-15 minutes ago addressed the media, and they called the protester for the talks. Government is ready to talks with the protesting, agitating students regarding the quota movement. Quota reforms movement, and the minister has said that the meeting will be held in afternoon or tomorrow. It depends on the agreement of the protesting student and movement's leader.
Okay. Now, I think it's interesting that you say that it's just the protesters and the police or the security forces on the ground, and even more interesting is what you say, it's not a people's movement. Then what is it? Is it politically backed? What is the movement? And what is the mood of the protesters? Are they ready to back down, talk to the government at the moment, or are they keeping their stance up and kept a very hardened maximist position as of now?
Actually, this movement started on 1st of July as a student movements, which were spearheaded by the university students and teachers. On 14th July, movement became a mass movement, and other part of the countries and other cities students also joined in this movement. Earlier, it was localized up to the Dhaka University and Jagannath University, which is also located in Dhaka city. Since last 2-3 days, people from all walks of life are coming forward, and they are giving support to the quota reform movement.
So are you saying it is a people's movement? I heard you saying it's not a people's movement. So you're saying there is a mass movement?
It may be my mistake, but it is a people's movement. And in my tenure here, I completed 1 year in Dhaka, and I covered the Bangladesh election. There were also many protest movement and blockade and the shutdown called by the opposition party, Bangladesh Nationalist Party. But at that time, the people's participation was not so much as I can see now here in this movement.
Okay.
It is mainly a student-oriented and student-driven movement. But the other people, and in last 2 days, many celebrity also come forward to support the agitating students and the teacher. And that is the result that government become ready. As I said, that the very 10-15 minutes back, only the government spokesperson or minister, Law Minister Anisul Haq, and another minister, Education Minister, addressed the media, and they showed their willingness, government willingness to talk with the agitating students or student leaders. And the timing meeting. It depends on the agreement of the students. Government is ready. Government said they are ready to talk with the
very secondly, how big a headache could it become for the Sheikh Hasina government?
It could be because once the people comes on the road, and if they protest or oppose the government stand, then for political leadership in any country, it will be a difficult situation to extend. And yesterday, Sheikh Hasina addressed the nation through Bangladesh television and the Betar Bangladesh, and she said that she appealed and urged students to have a faith on the judiciary of the country. The matter is pending in the Supreme Court of Bangladesh. High Court stayed a government order in which government cancelled quota for the class 1 and class 2 posts in the Bangladesh government in 2018. That order ruled out by the Bangladesh High Court, and based on the government appealed against that rule, and in that matter, Supreme Court has given a stay. So matter is pending in the Supreme Court of Bangladesh, and Sheikh Hasina urged students to have a faith in the judiciary system of the Bangladesh. But now the situation is getting so tense that government came forward to have a talk with the agitators.
All right. Naval Singh Parmar, Prasar Bharati correspondent from Dhaka, many thanks for joining us and giving us that update. And coming back to India, in a fierce encounter with terrorists in the Kashtigarh area of Doda in Jammu and Kashmir, 2 Indian Army soldiers have sustained injuries. Given the severity of their injuries, they were airlifted to the Army hospital for advanced medical care. Their operation against the terrorists is ongoing as security forces continue to engage with hostile elements in the region. Meanwhile, the police launched a major crackdown on overground workers network and arrested 4 of them responsible for providing logistic support to the terrorists in the Doda district. The CBI, or the Central Bureau of Investigation, has detained 4 undergraduate medical students of AIIMS Patna in connection with the paper leak and irregularities case in the NEET undergraduate 2024 exam. The doctors are from the 2021 batch and they have been taken into custody for questioning. Meanwhile, a hearing is underway in the Supreme Court for a batch of petitions linked to the controversy-ridden medical entrance test. This follows an earlier observation by the top court on July 8th. The sanctity of NEET undergraduate 2024 exam may have been breached. My colleague Vikas Sarthi joins us more from New Delhi to report on that. He's reporting from the Supreme Court. Vikas, I understand the CGI has made an oral observation in the court. The hearing is still underway. What is the defense saying? What is the, give us the latest on the proceedings.
Right, Amrit. So the hearing is still underway, and at first of all, the Chief Minister, the Chief Justice of India has given an opportunity to the petitioners to put their case. In fact, they have been saying, the petitioners have been saying that there was incidents of leak on certain centers, and at that point in time also, CGI remarked that any kind of irregularity must be on a mass scale for a re-examination. There are certain criteria which have already been decided by the Supreme Court in previous cases, like the irregularity must be on mass scale. There must be an impossibility of segregating genuine candidates from those candidates who have taken advantage of unfair means. And the third one is that the sanctity of the whole examination must have been compromised. So these are 3 criteria on basis of which a re-examination can be ordered. As of now, Supreme Court is inquiring about the data provided by the IIT Madras. The IIT Madras had conducted a study. On that data analytics study, IIT was of the opinion that there is no case of mass level rigging or cheating or any kind of anomaly if we compare it with the previous year's examinations. Apart from it, CGI is also of the opinion that the irregularities which have been committed on certain places, on certain centers, these can be addressed by a parallel investigation as is being conducted by the Central Bureau of Investigation. So we expect, Amrit, that at the end of the day, CGI will pass an interim order, and after that order, the counselling process will start. In fact, if you recall, on the last occasion, the center in its affidavit said that the counseling process, which is the most important issue for those students who have already cleared the examination, it will start from the 3rd week of July and will be conducted in four phases. So that is the most important aspects for those students who have secured their seats in NEET examination. But as far as the students who have been opposing the examination, they are saying that the sanctity of the examinations have been compromised, and because of that Supreme Court must order a re-examination.
All right. It will be interesting to note what the court says in its interim order. Because you keep a track of that, we'll keep coming back to you through the day. Thank you very much for joining us for the moment. And as India is fast emerging as a major defense supplier in the world, Armenian forces participated in the Eagle Partner 2024 military exercise. They were spotted wearing an India-made helmet-mounted thermal imaging monocular. The Armenian troops were spotted in the thermal imaging devices developed by Tonmo Imaging, a Bangalore-based Indian defense manufacturer. It is a multi-mission uncooled thermal imaging sight designed and optimized for small and medium caliber weapons as a true clip-on. It also serves as a standalone sight, handheld viewer or a helmet-mounted system. These sights are among the several defense-related equipment that Armenia has bought from India to beef up its military. India is also a major defense supplier to Armenia. And let's now take a look at other stories making news. Karnataka government has paused and will further study a bill directing private firms in the state to reserve jobs for Kannada-speaking people. The bill that was cleared on Monday requires firms in India's IT capital to prioritize local hires for 70% of the non-management roles and 50% of the management level jobs. Chief Justice of India D.Y. Chandrachud administered the oath of office to new judges of the Supreme Court, Justice N. Koteswar Singh and Justice R. Mahadevan. Justice Singh was the Chief Justice of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh High Court. Justice Mahadevan was the acting Chief Justice of the Madras High Court. The Comptroller and Auditor General of India, Girish Chandra Murmu, has inaugurated the International Centre for Audit of Local Governance in Rajkot in Gujarat. The emphasis is on increasing audit capacity and self-reliance to the centre. During the program, Girish Chandra Murmu said that this centre will prove to be a better step for improving local governance. Several states across India are bracing for a heavy downpour for the next few days. The India Met Department has issued a red alert for extremely heavy rainfall at many places, including Kerala, Chhattisgarh, Telangana, Saurashtra and Kutch, Assam and Meghalaya, Konkan and Goa on Thursday. There's an orange alert for very heavy rainfall in Tamil Nadu, Puducherry, and very heavy rainfall likely over Uttarakhand, Gujarat and East Rajasthan. Kerala is likely in for tougher time with the possibility of widespread rain. A red alert was issued in Wayanad district on Wednesday in view of the possibility of extremely heavy rainfall. Orange alert has been announced in several other districts including Kottayam and Kozhikode. The heavy rainfall has caused waterlogging and flood-like situation in several low-lying areas, prompting setting up of relief camps. Heavy rains disrupted the routine in South Korea, prompting immediate warnings throughout the country. More than 24 flights were cancelled as well as train services were halted to prevent accidents. The country received more than 300 mm of rainfall on Thursday itself. Rescue teams were evacuating residents from flooded areas to safer locations. Residents expressed concern over unpredictable and extreme weather changes. On the other hand, authorities were monitoring the rivers flowing from North Korea in real time. Heavy rains in Illinois state of the United States caused failure at the Nashville Dam. As a result, the streets were flooded with vehicles partially submerged underwater. Another dam in proximity was also reported to fail, prompting immediate evacuation of the residents. And still to come on DD India News Hour, India plans to more than double its airport count to 300 by 2047. And India's Sumit Nagpal to play round of 16 against Argentinian opponent at the Swedish Open.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Amritpal Singh. India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman will present the financial year 2024-25 full union budget in Parliament on the 23rd of July. Indians are looking forward to the occasion with several expectations. Our correspondent spoke to Mumbaikars from various sectors. Listen in.
Well, it's that time of the year when everyone from every society has expectations, and we are talking about the budget expectations. The union budget is soon going to be announced, and what the corporate, what the middle class, what the women want from Mumbai, we are about to tell you that. What would be your this year's budget expectations from the union budget?
Well, focusing on the national budget aspect, the MSMEs are the most critical sector of our economy, 14 million of them. They account for about a third of our exports, employ millions of people. So I would expect the budget to focus on giving more support to MSMEs. There are some taxation issues which have been sorted out, but still MSMEs require working capital support all the way.
I only have three pillars which are transparency, simplification and consistency, which is what is expected from the government, which they have been doing for last 10 years admirably well. Simplification and transparency are the two basic pillars which people are looking for from the point of view of corporates as well as for middle class.
As a retailer, what I would love for the government to maybe do is if we have additional boost of consumption where taxation on the lower income brackets, if that is reduced, it will lead to slightly higher disposable income, and that has a trickle down effect on the economy. And secondly, also if you're able to provide an incentive to digital payments.
We have put across a lot of points, all related from the top, from where the policies are concerned, to a person like you and I. We were talking about taxation and what really affects our pockets. So we are also expecting that there'll be major reliefs coming towards us and bigger policies for India to grow, for becoming the third largest economy. With camera person Kapil Maske, this is Shama Mishra for DD India, Mumbai.
India plans to more than double its airport count to 300 by 2047. On the back of an 8-fold increase in passenger traffic, a draft plan made by the country's airport authority shot. This will involve developing existing airstrips to full-scale airports and building new ones from scratch.
India is on the brink of a major transformation in its aviation sector. By 2047, the country aims to more than double its number of airports, reaching a total of 300. This ambitious goal is driven by an expected 8-fold surge in passenger traffic. Currently, India has 108 operational airports. To meet the growing demand, the Airports Authority of India has outlined a comprehensive expansion plan. This includes upgrading existing airstrips into fully operational airports and constructing new ones from the ground up.
That is the commitment of our Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, and he has said before also Hawai Chappal se Hawai Jahat tak. And he has been committed since day one that aviation should go to reach to 140 crore people of this country. Everyone should be able to travel, and with that commitment he has launched the Udan scheme, and through that we have built new airports. In 2014 there were only 70 airports in the country. Now we have expanded to 157 airports, and like you have said, in the next 20-25 years we want to double this number of airports, and there is good scope also.
Approximately 70 airstrips will be developed to accommodate narrow-body aircraft such as Airbus A320 and Boeing 737. Additionally, around 40 airstrips may be upgraded to serve smaller aircrafts. In cases where an airstrip cannot be developed or where no civilian airport exists within a 50-kilometer radius, a new greenfield airport will be considered. According to the draft National Airports Development Plan, annual passenger numbers are expected to surge significantly, reaching between 3 billion to 3.5 billion by 2047, up from the current 376 million. International air traffic is projected to constitute around 10 to 12% of this total. Looking forward to 2047, with an estimated per capita income of $18,000 to $20,000, India is projected to achieve an average of one trip per person annually. This means the country could potentially accommodate over 3 billion passengers by that time. This is a new dawn in India's aviation sector. This expansion not only promises to enhance connectivity but also drive economic growth and provide greater convenience for millions of travelers. India is truly set to soar to new heights in the world of aviation. With Person Naveen, this is Taposh Bhattacharya for DD India from Delhi.
And it's time for sports updates now. And for that, I have with me Deepika. Deepika, tell us what's making news in the world of sports.
Thanks and good afternoon, Amrit. We'll begin with the top update that we are tracking for the viewers from the world of tennis, because India's star tennis player Sumit Nagal will face Argentine world number 36 Mariano Navon in the men's singles round of 16 category in Sweden Open today. Earlier, Nagal defeated Swedish Ellis Ymer by 6-4, 6-3 in round of 32 clash. However, in men's doubles clash, French duo Alexander Muller and Lucha von Asch defeated the Indian-Polish pair of Sumit Nagal and Karol Terzwicki in straight sets. Meanwhile, Sumit achieved a new career high ranking of 68 in men's singles category in the latest ATP rankings. Argentine Thiago Augustin upset top seed and defending champion Andrei Rublev in 3 sets at the Swedish Open on Wednesday. The 23-year-old world number 121 claimed a 7-6, 3-6, 6-4 victory over his Russian opponent to advance to a maiden tour-level quarterfinal. Meanwhile, Wednesday at the ATP 250 event in Bastard saw the tournament lose its top 2 seeds, as earlier Casper Ruud lost to Brazilian Thiago Monteiro by 6-3 and 6-3. Now, Philadelphia's Kevin Sullivan became the youngest player to debut in MLS and North American team's sports history. He played Wednesday night's match with Philadelphia in the 85th minute against the New England Revolution. 14-year-old midfielder passed Freddie Adu off the MLS mark. Sullivan took a left-footed shot from outside the box in the 3rd minute of second half stoppage time, but New England goalkeeper Ivacic made the save. Sullivan is a new Philadelphia native who's expected to develop into a standout player. Now, the Olympic torch relay made its way through the Department of Ain on Wednesday. Stage 59 of the relay saw the torchbearer start in Chateau Thierry before finishing up in St. Quentin, where French kickboxer Emilie Mechut lit the cauldron. Meanwhile, Thursday's stage will move through OS Department from Campino to Pivea. The relay will culminate with the lighting of the cauldron in the host city, Paris, during the opening ceremony of the Olympic Games scheduled for the 26th of July. So that was a quick wrap from the world of sports. Back to Amrit.
Thank you, Deepika. And that's it in this edition of DD India News Hour. But do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India's mobile app that you see. The app is available both on Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR codes that you see on your screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks on DD India. I'm Amrit Pal Singh, and for my entire team here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India's News Hour.
while there's still enough food for everyone.